this computer. Okay, so now I think we are officially recording. Good evening, everyone. So nice to see you from quite several countries around. And we would like to introduce our speaker for tonight. And that's Michael Robb, an American living in Germany. He would address us with the different questions. The main one will be, do the smartphones make us smarter? So yeah. You want to say who we are? And we are Robb, Renewing Our Minds. We exist for over 20 years now, and we're born with the idea of leadership and reconciliation, especially in the region of ex-Yugoslavia in the 90s when the wars broke out. And we think that there is probably more than ever the need in this world today, reconciliation between people, and also, as I like to say, we like to reconcile people with the people and also reconcile people with the God. So that's one of our major topics. So I think that's enough for now. Mike, over to you. Rachel?
Yeah, we're just recording this to let everyone know. So if you don't want, your face to be seen in the recording, then turn off your camera. Please keep your microphone muted while Michael is talking, and feel free to write questions in the chat at any time, or you can ask him afterwards, because there will be a good amount of time for questions at the end, I think. So now over to you, Mike.
Okay. Let me know if you can't hear me for some reason. I'm also getting sort of voices drop out for a few seconds. So if I don't immediately pick up on what you say, I'm not quite sure why that is, but just be patient with me here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm going to take these big headphones off here while I talk. I should still be able to hear you if you yell loud enough. Yeah, and I want to talk about smartphones, technology usage. But before we get to that question, I guess everybody's video is off, so I can't exactly do a sort of raise of hands here. But maybe just think for yourself. Okay, a couple people want to turn it on and try. But to think for yourself, whether you believe you have a healthy relationship with your smartphone, tablet, computer. It's more of just a group interest, like what people sort of feel that where they're at. So I don't know, there really isn't any other way to sort of, I guess you could write in the chat. There you go. You can write in the chat if you believe that you have a healthy or unhealthy relationship with your devices. The second question to sort of get us started was one of whether your use is similar to what a morally good person would do. So is your the way that you use it like what a morally good person would do? Now, I did kind of want to see what people thought, sort of yes or no to those, but I guess we'll find out after when we discuss. And the question, I'll just answer the question that I lured you here with. Do smartphones make you smarter? With no, they don't. They don't make you smarter. Just in case, as I'm talking, I don't actually get to the answer to that question, I'll just sort of say, no, they don't make you smarter. But it's obviously about more than being smart. Being smart. Better people. And I don't know how you would define what a good person is, or what a an important person is, but I'll give you my definition or how I kind of help myself think about it, and then that can be something for us to work from. So I think of good people not only in terms of, well, first of all, I think of it as in terms of they're knowledgeable. They're people who have knowledge. And secondly, they are people who are morally good. So they have virtue, or depending on what tradition you come from, the Christian tradition, very similar to the Jewish tradition, would say love is the most important virtue to have. And a good person is powerful. They have power, ability. Now that may be merely on a human level, but it may be their ability to work with supernatural or other people in a certain way that gives them power. So those three things: somebody who's knowledgeable, somebody who is morally good, and somebody who is powerful, are how I think of good people. And if you look at it that way, I think for most people, given what our devices are right now, they do not make them better people. The more they use them, they don't necessarily become more knowledgeable. They don't become morally better people or morally good people, and they don't become more powerful people. I want to say I don't know really anybody here very well. I hope we do get to meet sometime soon, but I can imagine a day meeting you 10 years from now. I don't know how old you are now, but if you think about how old you'll be 10 years from now, and I can imagine a day of meeting you 10 years from now and seeing a really, really good person, somebody who is significantly different from the person that you are right now. And really, that's my hope for you. And this evening, I hope is a boost in your path on that journey. But I really do think that is possible. If that's something that you want for your 30 years from now, to become a better person. And again, in those three ways: knowledge, virtue, and power. But then the real question is, how do you become a good person? How do you gain these things? And this is where there's lots of answers to this. And obviously, you're going to need a lot of different things to do that. But there's one thing that it's not going to happen without, and that is focus. You are not going to become a more knowledgeable person or a more morally good person or a more powerful person with more ability if you do not have focus in your life. And then you can think about it in all sorts of ways. People, studying at school, life, during your day, during your week, when you are focused on what you're trying to learn, whether you're trying to become a plumber or you're trying to become a nurse, you're going to have times when you're focused on that. If you want to be a circus clown, you have to focus on those. You have to have times of focus. And that actually, this isn't quite as well known, but really to become a morally good person is going to require also times of focus. And if you don't have those times, they aren't sorts of things that you will drift into. If you want to be a person of ability, if you want to be able to play the piano, you're going to have times when you're focused. If you want to skills, you're going to have times of focus. If you want to work with God or other supernatural powers, you're going to have times when you're focused on that and doing that. And the opposite is also true. Lack of focus is going to be a major contributor to you not becoming a good person, to you either becoming, just sort of staying right where you are, or what's probably more likely with lack of focus is to become gradually worse, to not grow in knowledge, but actually start to lose the knowledge that you might have had, to lose the moral goodness you might have been taught from the people around you or might have attained in your life, and to lose in power. We need focus even just to maintain and to think a little bit about the relationship between who we are and our devices. I'm just going to put it out there, and if you disagree, that's fine. But as I've studied human beings, I've learned that they are primarily unitaskers. That is, you, we do one thing really well and not multiple things really well. So, back to playing the piano, if you want to become better and better at that, you need to have times when you're just doing that and you're not also watching TV or whatever else you could try to do while you're doing that, because you'll do one thing best. Now, there's some sorts of if you were a waiter at a restaurant, you would have to be aware of a lot of different things. If you're cooking a meal for a big meal, perhaps you have to sort of be aware of what's happening. If you're watching children, there's going to be sort of a little bit, but even then, a waiter doesn't simultaneously, a good waiter doesn't also listen to music or doesn't also talk with their friends on the phone. You have these times when you are just doing that. And that's how humans are made. Now, computers, I don't know. I mean, this kind of says how old I am. If people are younger than me, they might not have the same history, but computers used to be like us in that they used to act. Our first computer as a family was one that my dad bought for us. It was like the size of a suitcase. So if you think about like what your parents or grandparents take to travel, this big, huge box, that was our first computer. And it took about 2 weeks to get it to boot up. And once you had it booted up, then you could do one thing, just one thing. I was a kid, so I wanted to play a game. So you could play one computer game, and then you could shut that down, and then you could do some typing maybe, and you could shut that down, and then you could, I don't know, read something. So the computers just had these sort of narrow, pathways. Like that, you could become smarter by using them. But they had started to change, and there's kind of 3 ways that I've written down. I'm not really a technology historian or anything like that, so keep that in mind. But one of the big changes was that computers became able to multitask, so multiple programs open at the same time. That's just standard for us now. I don't know if you remember when your internet browser could only open one tab at a time. You could only have one website open. And then if you wanted to go to a different website, you closed that one and you went to the other one. Now we have multiple. I don't know about you. I have there's probably 10 open on my computer at a time. 10. Advertising that they had dual processors or dual core things. So now the computer itself could work on two different things at a time. Now the computers, I don't even know, the latest one I bought, 7, 8, 9, 10 different cores in the processor to sort of different tasks that the computer could do. Now that is very different from the way that we're wired to work, where we can't have these multiple completely separate tasks that we're doing. And computers are really they really can do two things at once. Another example is websites used to be a lot more streamlined. You just read them. Now they're multimedia. You have not only links that you click, but you have images in there, videos that are connected, things that pop in and out. And so you're sort of things. And it's really geared towards sort of paying attention to a lot of things at once. So that's the first sort of change that we've gone through, or first area of change. Another one is that computers have become more mobile. Again, this might be sort of obvious to everybody, but it's good to, I think, realize what we have in terms of the technology. Your family computer used to just sit in one place in your house. And then we got laptops. And the old ideal for the laptop was the businessman or woman in the airplane working on their laptop, this idea of moving. And now you can take your computer into different rooms, into the living room, into the basement, into the kitchen. Also meant now that you're moving a multitasking device into these rooms as well. Then with tablets coming in and phones, I don't know if you remember the first tablets, like they were also unitasker devices. You could only open one program at a time, and then you had to shut down that app, and then you could open another one. And the same with the early phones, only one thing at a time, then you shut it down and open something else. But these smaller devices became more and more like computers, so that now a regular smartphone is as good as my first laptop was. It can do probably more. It probably has more memory, more ability to process information than my first. Is better than my first digital camera. Certainly, it's a really good camera and a high quality phone. So what we have, and this is an analogy that I think works really well. This is my son's. Oh, let's see if I can get a good picture of it. It's my son's Swiss Army knife. So your device, tablet, phone, especially, are like these Swiss Army knives that have all these little gadgets in them that used to be separate, right? And now you can take them portably. I'm sorry that if this seems so obvious, but the third thing that's sort of changed is that these computers have become, I'm going to call it invasive technology. Some different aspects to this. One is that the way that these tech companies think about innovation and what they're making. My wife works with, she's a software developer, programming. She works with different companies, and they are always asking themselves, what can we add to the product that we already have? What can we develop and put into it so that it's got new features? And they will not necessarily ask whether they should or not develop new features. They just sort of assume that, of course, we want new features in. you need these new features. You need to have a device that does this. So, we're talking about tools, right? With technology, and a smartphone or a tablet or a computer is a tool. Here is our hammer, right? So it says my hammer. It's actually the second hammer that I bought. The first one broke. It looks exactly like the hammer that my father owned and that my grandfathers would have owned. And I mean, nothing really has changed in this tool. And they aren't asking now, how can we add some sort of feature to the hammer so that I think I need to get a new hammer. Tech companies think there will be, I think we're at iPhone 12 now, there will be an iPhone 13. There are people who are developing. Now, whether you need that or not, or whatever they put in, they will bring that out, or whatever piece of device, technology, app you're using, they're going to try to bring out another one, and they will tell you, you need this. The marketing department will tell you, this is what you need. So that's a little bit different than what the hammer does as technology. The other thing is these devices, invasive technology, are trying to get your attention. Now, not all of them. The people who made my laptop aren't trying to get my attention, but Facebook is trying to get my attention, and Google is trying to get my attention, and I can put onto my devices are all trying to get my attention, and they want me to use their products more. There's some good documentaries on this now that sort of talk about how these companies are thinking about this, but they are notifications or through different sort of devices that they use to try to pull you back into that. Now, if you think about the hammer again, this hammer, can you imagine a hammer being designed that tried to get me to hammer more and more and more, and tried to get me to come back and use it? And, you haven't used me today. It's been 2 weeks since you've last hammered something. Would you like to see what other people are hammering? It's kind of ridiculous, but the reality is it's a tool. And otherwise, it's perfectly fine to leave it in the drawer, and I don't need it. It's fine. I decide when to use it. But, these tools that we have now are very different in that they want us to use them. They need us to use them. And of course, this leads into the third thing, which is a lot of these tools make money by showing you advertisements. Or by getting you to buy a subscription, but they want you to use it more, not because, just because they want to show you products, because they are not in the business often of trying to make your life better. They are in the business and that's their way to make money in this world. So nobody is sitting in these tech companies. I mean, I know there's some people that do, but very few people are sitting in these tech companies asking whether their products will make you a good person. That's really not a question that they're asking. So whether they're making a new device or a new program, app, they will say this is, you need this, but they're not really asking whether this is really going to help you out. Now, maybe sometimes at the very beginning, you have these kids usually who design something because they think this where they're asking, how can we keep our company going? How can we please our shareholders? How can we grow? And they leave the questions of, is this really better for society? So help me here with the time. I guess we're okay. I still haven't talked for half an hour yet. So I just want to get back to this question of focus. You as primarily a unitasker, and then these devices, which are increasingly better at multitasking, increasingly more mobile, and increasingly invasive, wanting us to combine when what you need in order to be a good person is focus. And in fact, we actually have tech companies who are trying to develop products to help protect us from the other tech companies, which are trying to steal our focus. So I don't know if any of you use an ad blocker on your devices, on your browser or whatever, but that's an example of a tech company trying to sort of step in and say, we'll help streamline these websites so you can actually focus on what's you're looking for and not for the product that you just looked for 3 hours ago. But there are other I think I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the discussion, but at the moment, the devices that we have are not well built to help us with focus. And we need to take a more aggressive stance in trying to establish for ourselves focus, because the devices that we have aren't designed to help us with it. So I want to lay out a couple practical things so that I'm not just sort of, I guess, doing a talk sort of positively, some things that I use to help me in my life. Because I have devices, I have technology in my house, but there are some things that I do to try to help me have the focus that I need so that I will become a better person in all those three ways: knowledge, in moral goodness, and in power. So one of the things that I do, and I would recommend for everybody to do, is to define no Wi-Fi times and places. So when are the times when you're not connected? Or where are the places for everybody, what they need, what's helpful for them? But I would just encourage you to experiment with it. One thing that I do is I don't turn on my computer or any mobile device until about lunchtime. So I may actually use a computer, but I will use it with the Wi-Fi off. I'm not checking reading any emails. Nobody is contacting me, and it's just off. And that's a space when I have a time that I have when I can focus. But you can have other rules. You can have rooms in your house where you use devices, and other places where they're banned. This is something also I do. I don't know if I have it here. Yeah. This is the phone that I take with me when I leave the house. Just a simple phone like this. And that's just something that I do to help me be focused when I'm out. Usually I'm meeting people. And, my wife could reach me on this, but I'm not really out there to be answering calls. And it just helps me. I'll take something to listen to music, like an MP3 player or something like that, or just one thing. Now this connects to one of my other things here. Sort of suggestion is to just turn off all notifications on all of this. Don't let any device, computer say, please come pay attention to me. If you can somehow disable the apps that sort of have little dots on them that say, look, if you open this, you'll be able to see something, it might take some fiddling to get it to stop doing that. Or you might have to put it in a different part of your computer so you don't see that. But that's just a way to sort of, when you use these things or you don't use them, that you're in control of them. And the third thing, and I apologize if some of this is just so obvious, but I think that I too am not always great at even implementing the sort of the rules or like I said, a phone or a tablet is kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's got all these little tools in it, things that used to be in much bigger pathways. So this Swiss Army knife has a corkscrew, bottle opener. It's got the scissors in there. There's a toothpick in there. There's a couple knives. But here's one of the things about these. It is very portable. I can take this wherever I go, but none of these things is all that good. So this knife is not the best knife that I own. And this corkscrew is not the best corkscrew. And the bottle opener is not the best. So they are putting these things into a sort of something that's physically convenient for you. But example, so you can read on your phone or on your tablet, but it's really not the best tool you have in your house to read with. You can read your Bible on your phone. You can do that. You will read better if you read with an actual book with pages in it. I mean, you can look up those studies. I know I don't want to try to attack people who use these devices to read, but you will probably read better if you don't use it, because they're not designed for it. And same with this, I have better knives than this, but it's convenient. And so the tip that I have is find ways to use these tools individually. So you have better tools to type than your phone. On those things. So on your computer, if you have a computer, or taking pictures. I mean, if you've got a really good phone, it probably has an okay camera, but a photographer, even an amateur hobbyist photographer, would recommend getting a simple camera to start with. So, and then what you do then is you actually are able to focus on just that, just taking pictures, or just reading, or just whatever it is you're going to be talking with somebody, and then you have all these other things that are packed into your device. They just aren't present, and that just helps with focus. bunch of names on my screen here. If I meet you 10 years from now, I really hope that I meet really good people, knowledgeable, morally good, powerful people. And for that, you are going to need focus. And you're going to have to figure out how you deal with the technology that we have now and also find focus for your life. So that's what I've got for the me talking portion. I'll put my headphones back on so I can hear people better. And Bojan.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. That I think gave us a lot of food for thought, and also for discussion right now. So before we start discussion, I just want to let everyone know, we sent out an email yesterday that most of you should have gotten, probably, or all of you, saying that we're going to follow this up next week with a film club meeting where we'll be discussing one of the documentaries probably that Mike was thinking of. It's called The Social Dilemma. It's on Facebook. And it talks a lot about the invasive aspect of technology that Mike was talking about, how, we become a commodity, we become a product when we use Facebook and these other social media. So we'll be talking about that next week. Whoever wants to or can join, it'll be next Friday, January 29th at this same time in the same place, the same Zoom link, and I'll be posting about it on Facebook. But I don't want that to take away from our discussion now, but that's just to let everyone know that we can discuss more and we can focus more on that part of it then, but we can talk about that or anything else you guys want to now.
Netflix.
Right, the documentary's on Netflix, so if you have Netflix, great. If you don't, you can get a free trial, or you can also find, I linked to them in the email, just some interviews with the guy that's featured in the documentary. He did a TED Talk, he did some other interviews and stuff. So if you want to know more, you can ask me. But let's go ahead and start talking now. Adriana had a few really good comments in the chat about whether or not technology is immoral in and of itself. I don't know, Adriana, if you want to say something, or Mike, if you've read her comments and you want to address them, or if someone else wants to jump in. Adriana, are you here?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I just I watched The Social Dilemma, and I've been following Tristan like for a few months now on this whole issue. So this is super interesting. True. I am just not convinced that the discussion about whether technology makes us good or bad or smart or not is actually valid or has any merit, I should say, because that's not the point. That's not the point of technology. It's the point of technology is for us to use it. It has a purpose. It was whenever anything was invented, and like I said, from the hammer to the light bulb to the wheel to the gun, if you want, it everything served a purpose, and it's us humans, the way we use them, that infuses the morality to the tools, if you want, or into the tools. So it's the same with the smartphone. It can be or with technology in general, a laptop, a camera, like you said. It can be extremely useful. It can be making our lives better. It can help us become more educated. It can help us learn and find out things and just be more effective at our work. I think a better discussion would be about the focus, about the attention, like you said, Michael, and the anxiety that prolonged exposure to technology can produce in people. We are a very anxious generation at the moment. And this dopamine rush that we get every time there's a ping, every time there's a notification, Our brains are, and now scientists are looking into this pretty closely. Our brains are not meant to experience the dopamine rush that we get every time we use technology, especially the smartphones, at the degree that we are. Right? So the rushes are not meant to be as frequent as they are. And it's because we are overexposing ourselves to smartphones. So I think those are really interesting discussions to have, because we are literally becoming different. Like our brains are suffering, or not suffering, but going through modifications because of our use of technology. Whether technology is good or bad, or makes us good or bad, or if it's immoral or not, then yeah, I'm not sure I really see the merit of the discussion, but I'm open to being convinced of otherwise.
Mike, you can jump in. I think, Adriana, that actually you're not really disagreeing with Mike. I think you're kind of saying the same things in a different way. I don't know what Mike would say about that.
Yeah, the question is also use, is it not? It's how we're using the different things that we have. Guns and bombs have their uses. You might think that some actually have no good possible uses, but the question is not so much what the technology does, but how we use it. And I will say that there probably are technologies that really don't add much. I don't know if you get these infomercials with the people that are selling the new kinds of exercise equipment, or that does whatever, or kitchen supplies. Maybe you have in your kitchen something that you really, its use is so narrow, you just really don't need it. Nobody really needs something like that. One that I remember is a pot. Somebody had created a pot which in the lid had holes in it, so that you could cook pasta or noodles or something, and then take the pot and turn it upside down and drain the water out of it. I don't think anybody needs that. I think it's actually just a bad tool. And some of that's the case then too when we talk about digital tools, is some of them actually, somebody designed it and they thought, oh, this might fit a niche, and it really doesn't. Or maybe it fits a bad niche, and it gives us something that we want, but maybe that we don't need.
Thank you. Fatmir, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to share. Oh, thank you, Michael. Very useful. I hope we meet, not in 10, maybe in 20 years. Some very useful tips, which I already also try to follow and do. What I wanted to say, I've seen social, I'm just trying to do right now. You see, I'm not focused because I'm multitasking. I'm talking to you, I'm trying to put cartoon for my kids, which shows that it's not easy, huh? Actually, when we do multitasking, we don't do multitasking, but we switch from one task to the other task. And that is not producing effectiveness and the maximum of your brain. So I'm just gonna delegate one task now to my daughter, that she finds her cartoon herself. You see, and she's not happy. I've seen Social Dilemma, and I wanted to say it influenced me more and more to remain out of technology, to post less, to do less likes, because these companies are trying to steal your attention. And most importantly, I'm deleting more and more apps from my phone. But I have to admit, since I came back from work today at 3 p.m., now it's 8 p.m., for almost 5 hours I have been on the phone. First, I replied 2 emails which I couldn't reply at work because I had to leave early to pick up my son from the kindergarten and avoid traffic. Then I had a call from my boss asking to send an email to someone because we have a deadline tomorrow to ask for something. Then I wrote an email through my phone because I don't have my laptop at home today. I didn't bring it. And then I attended a workshop on grant making principles from 5 to 7 p.m. And now I'm in this Zoom session and it's all through the phone. Oh, it's all through this gadget, which makes you, I don't know if it makes me smarter today, but definitely I spend less time with my family and kids today. After this session, I will turn it off, put the Wi-Fi off until tomorrow, not 12. I cannot do it, Michael, until lunchtime, but at least until 9 a.m. So what I wanted to share is that more and more we have to be cautious about using it, the way we use it, and how we interact. I know many people going to meetings, lunches, and of course it's pandemic. But normally when you go out, people tend to have distracted by various WhatsApp groups, Viber groups, stories, links, news, videos, and simply find yourself talking about those things. And normally you went out to meet a friend that you studied together 10 years ago, and you want to remember nice memories when you studied together and discuss something positive about future and not about what happened yesterday in Prizren, that some tragical news and whatsoever. So what I totally agree with Mike is that if we want to be more effective in our life, family, work, we have to focus. It used to be very fancy some 10 years ago. I remember multitasking. Everyone was talking about how you could multitask. I think we have to go back in single tasking and being much more effective and focused while single tasking. And I do this in my work. I put away phone when you work, but it's difficult because the culture, the mentality is that if you don't respond in WhatsApp group of management of our organization in 10 minutes, then simply they will call you. They're like, hey, didn't you see the message I sent about this issue? And I said like, no, because I'm working on I'm writing a project proposal on something else. And then, but that is also important, can you check out the group? And then you lose there 1-2 hours. Just that little distraction, it drags your attention and focus, and you lose productivity that day. So thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I can totally relate, Fatmir.
I think you raise a good point there about the social questions of using technology. There are certain, we need to maintain our relationships and our work relationships, and yeah, I feel that as well. Not being as involved in a particular social media product, and my friends want to get us in there or whatever, or to then be able to say, no, I need to step back and I need to do less of this. Yeah.
I was wondering, especially considering the pandemic context, At least for me and where I am here, where we're not allowed to have more than one or two contacts, technology and the smartphone actually has been a lifesaver in preserving those relationships that I have. So it didn't hinder them. It actually helped preserve them. It was the way that I could keep in touch with family, with friends all over the world, and even in the same city that I live. So I don't know. Once again, we see that there are advantages and merits to technology. Just used wisely and appropriately. Yeah. But that's really up to us.
Mike, I wanted to ask you a question. I liked your suggestions. I mean, obviously, I don't think that you're suggesting that no one should use their phones before noon. You're just saying that everyone should come up with things that work for them, like limits. I've had the issue in the past that I've wanted to set myself a limit, like that I don't use my phone at all a certain day of the week, but then I start going through withdrawals. And I struggle with staying committed to what I decided. So do you have any advice for others who may be experiencing that also?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We
I
can
think
barely
you're
hear you.
No? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about now?
yeah.
Probably an echo. Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's I have that too. And I think what has helped me is realizing that I can reset. I can say, okay, I've moved away from what my target is. I didn't want to have my phone next to my bed, and I'm doing that again. And you can say, no, actually, this is important to me. It was helpful for me before, and I'm gonna go back to that practice, or whatever it is. So not making ourselves feel guilty about not living up to this, because all this is it's not really a moral matter. It's more of a matter of wisdom and a matter of what works best. So you just have to keep experimenting and trying to find what works for you. I use one way that I try things out is I will use, so in the Christian calendar, there's Lent and Advent, sort of times when people sort of do something special. Other traditions have other seasons like that. And I will do things like, I remember one of the first ones that I did was I decided I wasn't going to write or look at any emails until 6 p.m. So this was back when email was much more exciting than anything else. So, that really helped me. Now I knew I wasn't going to keep that up, but that really helped me to realize I actually don't need to know who wrote to me in the past hour. It'll all be there in the evening. And then I knew that after that season was over, I could kind of go back and find something that was more healthy, and I could learn sort of like a lot of the times I was checking emails, not because I just needed something to do. Like I kind of found that sort of, I needed something and that's what I wanted to be able to recognize better in myself, that I was going to that, not because I actually even wanted to write an email or read them very carefully. I just wanted something to show up. So recognizing, finding that in yourself is a good good step towards being able to say, no, I don't actually need to do those things.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
I actually very much liked what apart from your things, of course, Mike, but what Fatmir said, that if he doesn't answer in 10 minutes to his group of the co-workers, bosses, whatever, like they're like, oh, is he a good worker or whatever? Maybe not him, but others, And somebody was saying, was it the last year or year before, that in couple of years, maybe 5 years or so, there will be something called offline luxury. When people will not be able to afford to live offline, it will be a luxury. You go, like, instead of traveling to a destination, you will be able to afford from Friday evening to Sunday evening that you are offline, and that will be almost like a vacation. That's how much we are all into these online things. So I don't know if pandemic of 2020 helped us, or is it dragging us down with all the Zooms and things, and so. Anybody else? Who else
Actually,
is?
we introduced
Yeah,
during pandemic times this offline vacation at home, because people were normally at home, but no one was taking vacations. And the
yeah,
number of days for our coworkers was increasing, because they said, why should I spend my days off while I'm at home? But we said, no, you have to take a day off. So simply be at home, be whatever you like during pandemic, but be offline. Don't respond, don't look at your emails. And
yeah,
that is your vacation during pandemic. And but now I realize it wasn't a luxury. Actually, we asked people to take vacations, stay at home, but simply, and even if we saw that they were checking or replying to emails, I would call and say, you're not taking your vacation. Actually, you're still looking at your emails. So please don't repeat it. Stay offline and have a rest.
yeah. I don't know how is Matt Maniac over there, because he works a lot online, and he works. I know he came a little late, but I don't know if he's still
Yeah,
there.
I work
Hey,
online. I work
hey, hi,
online
Matt.
every day. Yeah, I work online a lot with people in Taiwan and India, all over the world,
Wow.
And you are
and US too.
in Houston, in Texas. And with the time difference, it must be a crazy. Oh, he's gone.
He's muted. He's right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If there are any other comments or questions, now's the time. Otherwise, Livia and Camila are leaving.
Leave you, Camilla. We're leaving.
Yeah, I think we'll say thank you to Mike for your time. We really appreciated it. And for those who want to talk more about these things, like we said, next Friday, January 29th, same time, same place. If you can, watch The Social Dilemma beforehand. If not, I think, these are things that are easy to talk about. So you should be fine even if you don't get the chance to watch it. Mike's nodding. This is Simon. Now Mila wants to be heard too. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we'll let you know about our next Zoom event, hopefully sometime in February. So thank you everybody, and goodbye.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
Rachel,
See
boy,
you soon.
can you stay
Yeah.
for like 2 minutes?
Sure. Yeah.